afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to open up the Tallahassee City Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 6th. Thank you all for joining us today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce and invite Pastor Aaron Calhoun of Adventure Church to the podium, who will be providing our invocation today. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand and join me? Pastor, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor John Daly. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we come to you and thank you for blessing us with a new day and a new opportunity to live for you and to serve others. Thank you for this great city of Tallahassee and all the people that live here in the city. We commit this time and this city commission to you, and we humbly ask you to lead today's agenda. Guide us with your presence and give us your grace, insight, and wisdom through this meeting's conversations. Jesus, we need your help. We need your wisdom, and we ask you for your wisdom. We ask you, Lord, to give us your point of view and give us your heart, that we may walk in wisdom that is first pure and peace-loving, gentle, compliant, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering in pretense. Help us to sow and cultivate peace today. We ask you for that. We ask you to guide our time together. We welcome you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is to my right, your left. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor, thank you once again for joining us in providing the invocation. We certainly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great agenda for this evening. We've got some really great proclamations as well to start off. I'd like to start off this meeting like I invite everyone at the beginning of all of our meetings. Let's join together and show the world how civility can be done at a city commission meeting and how we can conduct the business of the city in a tone and in a manner that we can all be proud of and set the example for our children at home as well. With that, Mr. Manager, do we have any agenda modifications?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We've got one modification, item 9.05, which is authorization of issuance of bonds by the Public Finance Authority on behalf of the Affordable Housing Preservation Corporation has been pulled, and it's been renumbered as item 10.01.
Excellent. Any other modifications to the agenda?
No, sir.
Excellent. Any questions in regards to the agenda modification, commissioners? Okay, seeing not, we're going to go into presentations. We have 4 presentations this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is always one of the best times of the meetings with the presentations that we have. I'd like to invite my colleagues to come join me as well. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to introduce to you the Florida State University School, FSUS, boys basketball team, the Florida High School Association 3A State Championship. Gentlemen, please come join us down front. Led by Coach Charlie Ward. Hey, Coach, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Athletic Director Anthony Robinson, Dr. Stacy Chambers, who's our fearless leader over at the school as well, is also joined by the team. Gentlemen, what an honor and privilege to have you all here in Chambers. And if I may, I'd like to present this proclamation from the governing body of the City of Tallahassee, a proclamation. Whereas the Florida State University School, FSUS, boys basketball team competed in and won the Florida High School Association 3A state championship title on March 4th, 2022. And whereas this was the Seminoles' 3rd trip to the state final, with their last championship coming in 1969, the Seminoles finished its historic championship season with a record of 24 wins and 7 losses. And whereas the 2021-22 basketball team had become a symbol of pride and success of Florida High, Florida State University, Southwood community, and the city of Tallahassee and Leon County as a whole. And whereas the boys basketball team was led throughout the season by their head coach, Charlie Ward, who was named Big Bend Coach of the Year by the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper. Congratulations, Coach. That's great. Coach Ward was joined by assistant coaches Beverly Burnett, Jordan Gregory, Daniel Grusky, and team manager Samantha Correa, Jordan Smith, Michael Rubin, administrative assistants Cruz Moran, Sean Monroe, Drew Romich. The team also enjoyed working with the school's athletic director, Anthony Robinson, athletic trainer, Doc Walls, and strength and conditioning coach, O'Neill Brown. And whereas the Florida State University School is extremely proud of all the students on the team, team members include, and please step forward when I call your name if you are here, Trey Donaldson, Anthony Robinson II, Thaddeus Burns, team captains Miles Evera, Terrell Baker Jr., Elijah Elkins, Landon Elkins, Adrian Grant, Ashton Hampton, Christian Johnson, Dakota Morris, Josiah McGrew, Amari Robinson, Anthony Robinson II, Ponder Stratton, and Isaiah Young. Florida State University School is extremely proud of all the students on the team. Team members Trey Donaldson and Anthony Robinson II has also earned Big Bend first team honors by the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper. Thaddeus Burns, starting guard, has earned Big Bend honorable mention honors by the substitution. Here we go. Here comes the substitution. Hey, that's all right, Jimmy. Okay, let's do this all over again. Consist of team captains. When I call your name out, just take a step forward to give a wave, okay? Miles Evera, with players Terrell Baker Jr., Thaddeus Burns, Trey Card, Trey Donaldson, Elijah Elkins, Landon Elkins, Adrian Grant, Ashton Hampton, Christian Johnson, Dakota Morris, Josiah McCrew, Amari Robinson, Anthony Robinson II, Ponder Stratton, and Isaiah Young. All right, big round of applause. Almost done here. Whereas the Florida State University Schools 2021-22 boys basketball team should be formally recognized for their magically successful season, their great sportsmanship and teamwork approach displayed the entire year, their achievements and excellence made possible through the team chemistry, discipline, and peer leadership on and off the court. Now, therefore, I, John Evans Daly, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby recognize the Florida State University School boys varsity basketball team and coaches for their tremendous achievement in winning the 2022 FHSAA 3A State Championship. I have read this in witness of each and every one of you, signed and dated today, April 6, 2022. Congratulations. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor Daly, for this opportunity to be recognized before the city council meeting here. And we appreciate the city's support for our basketball program. And this is just a great honor for our school, for our city, to be able to, for us to be able to represent Tallahassee. So again, we're grateful and we appreciate all the support.
Excellent.
All people in the back.
Let me see. Okay, let's squeeze in just a little bit on the sides. We'll get everybody. All right, perfect. All right, in 3, 2, 1. One more big smiles. 3, 2, 1. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, for the next presentation that we have, I'm actually going to turn it over to the Mayor Pro Tem to present, but it is a proclamation honoring Nat and Cannonball Adderley. I saw Scotty Barnhart, who's here. Please come join us. We have Lindsey Sargent, Dr. Parsons, Mark Mustian, John Brown, anyone else that's here, please go. Dr. Valencia, come on up. It's great to see you.
See you. Good, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. Welcome back.
We are also joined by Dr. Valencia Matthews, who's an administrator at the Florida A&M University. And the best looking thing up here on this side. It is absolutely my honor to present this proclamation in recognition of Nat and Cannonball Adderley, one of the most prominent African-American families, or families generally, in Tallahassee and Leon County. I would hear so much about them when I came to Tallahassee as a freshman student at Florida State University. I can tell y'all that story one of these days if you're interested. Lindsay said I'm forgiven. All right. But it certainly is my pleasure to present this proclamation on behalf of the mayor and my colleagues on the commission. And the proclamation reads, whereas Nat and Cannonball Adderley were giants of modern jazz and spent their formative years in Tallahassee, and whereas the two moved to town in the 1940s when their parents took jobs at Florida A&M University, and whereas their father had played the trumpet and professionally, and Cannonball, so nicknamed by his friends because they said he ate like a cannonball, played the cornet before giving that to Nat when he picked up the alto saxophone. And whereas the two got their break when each sat in with bassist Oscar Pettiford's band at the Cafe Bohemia in Greenwich Village in 1955, where Cannonball was proclaimed the next Charlie Parker, and shortly thereafter formed the Cannonball Adderley Quintet. And whereas Cannonball joined the legendary Miles Davis Sextet with John Coltrane in time to record the album Kind of Blue, and Miles Davis in turn performed on Cannonball's album Something's Else, also with Art Blakely and Hank Jones. And whereas the Cannonball Adderley Quintet reunited in 1959 and began churning out a string of hits, this here, Work Song, Mercy, 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 the Jive Samba, and Walk Tall, where their sound ranged from hard bop to something that became known as soul jazz. And whereas after Cannonball died in 1975, Nat continued performing and writing, headlining several tours and playing all the trumpet parts for Sammy Davis Jr. in the movie A Man Called Adam, as well as staging performances of the musical he and Cannonball wrote, Shout Up a Morning. And whereas the music of Nat and Cannonball Adderley has influenced a host of musicians throughout the world, and whereas this year's Word of South Festival features a tribute to Nat and Cannonball Adderley on Sunday, April 20th, 2022, on its Florida Jazz and Blues Marriott AC stage, with artists flying in from around the country to play their music and participate in discussions about their importance to American music as a whole. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of our mayor, John E. Daly, by the authority vested in him as mayor of the city of Tallahassee, do recognize April 10th, 2022 as Nat and Cannonball Adderley Day, in witness whereof he has hereunto set his hand and caused the great seal of the city to be affixed. And it's signed by the Mayor, John Daly, on this day, April 6, 2022. Let's give them. Present this proclamation to a musical legend in his own right, Mr. Scotty Barnhart.
Briefly, thank you very much, everyone. Cannonball and Nat Adderley were just absolute giants in the field of music, and there's not a jazz musician alive today or in the last 50 or 60 years that didn't have the influence of them on their music. So I think Tallahassee is lucky to have them a part of the history of this town. The entire Adderley family is buried out next to the airport. And on Sunday, this Sunday, April 10th, we're going to have musicians coming in from all over the country. Two of them, Roy McCurdy, who's 85 years old, was Cannonball's drummer. He's going to be here to play. And Vincent Herring, who is Nat Adderley's saxophone player, will also be here to play. Along with Dr. Longini Parsons, Lindsay Sargent, and myself, we're going to be at the Marriott on Sunday, so please come out and hear it. It's free. And so one day also, I hope we can have a street named after the Adderleys in this town. So thank you.
And we're going to take, we're going to organize for a picture in just a second, if that's all right. Quick question, what is John Brown going to play on Sunday? We're going, no? Okay. I am going to take a point of personal privilege. We do have former City Commissioner Mark Mustian with us today. Mark is one of the founders, if not the driving force, behind this incredible festival. Mark, if I could put you on the spot, you want to come up and just talk a second about the festival this weekend, and in particular on Sunday.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think I've said enough words in this room. I don't need to say a whole lot more. But I want to thank the commission and the city for helping put on Word of South. I mean, this is our 7th festival, and this should be a really special one. I don't know if you realize what world-class musicians these guys are right here. I mean, they live and work here today. And then the Adderleys are legends. So a lot of thanks to Scotty Barnhart. Without him, this doesn't happen. But it's going to be really special. The members of the Adderley family are going to be here, and then the rest of the weekend is, all free, and looks like the weather's going to be good. So anyway, thank you. I know a number of the commissioners are doing introductions at the festival. Thanks to them, and hope you'll come out. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. You want to organize it? And while we're taking a picture, my last comment is on Sunday, I want to encourage everybody to come out for this special presentation. Not going to let in on all the secrets, but we are going to kick it up a notch as well. It's going to be a great, great time. And Scotty, it's my understanding you were just nominated at the Grammys and just got back as well yourself. Congratulations, that's fantastic. For our next presentation, I'd like to invite my colleague, Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, for this wonderful presentation, and thank you for bringing it to our attention as well.
Thank you. Okay, this next presentation will be on behalf of maternal Health Week, Black Maternal Health Week, and we're inviting Melanie Williams and Trichet, the founder, and others who may be accompanied to come forward. Y'all can come on around. Good to see you. That's my homegirl right there, y'all. Okay, let me regain my composure. From the governing body of the City of Tallahassee, a proclamation. Whereas Black Maternal Health Week is founded and led by the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, and whereas Black Maternal Health Week takes place every year on April 11th through the 17th, and whereas Black Maternal Health Week is a week of awareness, activism, and community building intended to increase attention to the state of Black maternal health in the United States, the root causes of poor maternal health outcomes, and community-driven policy, program, and care solutions. And whereas amplifying the voices of Black mamas, women, families, and stakeholders on this issue is important. And whereas this week serves as a national platform for Black women-led entities and efforts on maternal health, birth justice, and reproductive justice, including African immigrants and Afro-Latina groups, as it enhances community organizing on Black maternal health via community conversations, events, and outreach. And whereas the campaign and activities for Black Maternal Health Week serve to amplify the voices of Black mamas and center the values and traditions of the reproductive and birth justice movements, and whereas it is fitting and proper on Black Maternal Health Week to recognize the tremendous impact of human rights, reproductive justice, and birth justice frameworks in the City of Tallahassee, and whereas Black Maternal Health Week is an opportunity to fight to end maternal mortality locally and globally. Now, therefore, I, John E. Daly, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby recognize April 11th through the 17th, 2022, as Black Maternal Health Week.
Hey, this is surreal. Really appreciate it. First, I just wanted to give my thanks to those who came before me, because I would not be here if it wasn't for my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And so I'm thankful for those who came before me to set the mark. I want to thank my family that's sitting behind or standing behind me right now, these women, and my father. I really appreciate you all for always being here to support us. Melanie, thank you so much. Melanin Mothers Meet was started in August of 2015, and it was an idea because at the time, I was just like, I think we need a little bit more help here. so I wanted to get other like-minded moms around to see if they felt the same way, and they did. We had a lot of similar stories and a lot of things that we needed help with, and maybe programs I could offer with a panel or seminars or workshops that could provide tools and access to resources that, some Black moms do not have the access. So I wanted to let them know that, hey, it's easy to get the access. It's easy to, get informed and just, have a better outcome with birth and maternal problems. So I just wanted to say thank you all. If you all are interested in anything that we're doing April 11th through 17th, you can go to www.melaninmothersmeet.com, and that's MELANIN, mothersmeet.com. Thank you so much, Mayor. I really appreciate the opportunity. Oh, it's been a long time coming, and we're just so excited to share with the Tallahassee community, what all that we've been doing around the city, because it's always about boots on the ground. And so we weren't looking for this, but it is here, and that's kind of how it goes when you're so focused on, getting the solution. And that's what we do in our organization is we make sure we're after the solution. And we have another one of our members. Come on up, come on up. And everybody could not be here today, but we did have those who did come, so we're so appreciative of you all coming. I did want Melanie to go ahead.
Thank you. So Trishay didn't introduce herself. She's the founder of the organization, and I want to thank her for starting it. I met her when I was pregnant with my first in 2016, and now I have 3 little ones. They're all 5 and under, so yeah, you can imagine what my household is like. But my name is Melanie Andrade Williams, and I'm a member of Melanin Mothers Meet, and I have a long track record of experience in advocacy and direct lobbying at the state level. And my part and my contribution to this organization is that I hope to get more of our mothers directly involved in making change in policy, and that's why Black Maternal Health Week is important. It's not just about elevating what we already know and what studies tell us. And the CDC has recently said that not only do we know that Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die during childbirth, labor, delivery, but also that around 60% of those deaths are preventable, meaning they didn't have to happen. So it's not just about amplifying those numbers, amplifying the stories, but it's about getting us, the women who are directly impacted, actually involved in this work. So I want to thank you all for recognizing this, and I hope that this can start some more coalition building, because there are groups locally besides us that work on this issue. So we're looking forward to doing things in the future on Black Maternal Health Week. So thank you.
All right, let's continue on. I'm going to ask the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, Christian Doolin will introduce this item.
Okay, sounds great.
Hi, thanks, everybody. So I'm going to introduce Scott Dudley, the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Florida League of Cities, and he's here with an introduction, an overview, and a presentation for the Home Rule Heroes Award. And Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, mayors, member of the commission. I'm Scott Dudley. I'm with the Florida League of Cities. This is so cool. I love coming to city commission meetings. I get to go all across the state. I know it sounds really weird, but I really do. It's what I love, working with the League of Cities. Get to do this. I was in Port St. Joe yesterday doing this, giving a Home Rule Hero Award. And it's just so cool. Citizens show up and they're voicing their opinions. And think about that. We just had, it's just a microcosm of the entire, like, all across the state. We had sports, art, caring citizens, just people that are just doing stuff, making stuff happen. And it's so cool, and it's super exciting. I had no idea that I was going to be in the room with such legends. Charlie Ward, holy cow, Scotty Barnhart, are you kidding me? That's crazy. And then, of course, this city commission. Yeah, exactly. Curtis Richardson, Jerry Mount, all of y'all. The Tallahassee City Commission, too, is right up there with the giants of in their field, governance, sports, health, et cetera. So super exciting. One of the really cool parts of my job is that I get to honor folks that have gone above and beyond the call of duty in terms of their role as elected officials or serving as in the administrative staff of cities. We have something that we call at the League of Cities called Home Rule Heroes, and it's something that we do. You all work very hard, and we greatly appreciate it. And the League of Cities knows that without your public service and your efforts, that this city would not be going where it's in the good direction that it's going, and across the state, that's the same way. And but we have a Home Rule Hero Award that we designate for folks that really go above and beyond the above and beyond, because you all already taken on extra duties. And I'm proud today to be here to award Mayor John Daly and City Manager Reese Goad for their above and beyond efforts. City Manager Goad participated in a group that we had of city managers that basically, as legislation was filed, we were talking about, hey, what's the real world impact? How can we change this to make it a little bit different? How can we, whatever, trying to strategize. Mayor Daly worked when we asked him for any help in terms of not only just strategies, but also just, hey, what does this do for the city of Tallahassee? He'd put us in touch with whatever department we need to make that happen, and really just above and beyond at the state level, at the federal level, leading the charge. And I'm really proud to be able to present these two awards to you for your efforts way above and beyond. So thank you for that. Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, as we get settled, just to thank Scott and the team, and it's truly an honor and a privilege to be able to work with my colleagues, city managers around the state, just to talk about things that are common to all of our cities and really bring about, the good of the order for the state of Florida and the local cities. So my special thanks to Scott and the team for recognizing that.
I agree, and I want to thank the Florida League of Cities for all the incredible work they do, not only on the state level, but also on the federal level. Really do appreciate it. Before we move forward, I want to take a second to recognize as well, we have Anita Favors-Thompson that's with us, the former city manager of the city of Tallahassee. It's great to see you back in chambers, Anita. Thank you. Former County Commissioner Jim Cruz. Jim, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Okay, do we have any announcements to come before the City Commission, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay, we will take citizen input on the agenda items as they come forward. Do we have any appearances by other appointed boards, committees, or other governmental entities?
No, sir.
We're on the consent agenda. Any public comments on the consent agenda?
No, Mayor, there are no comments on consent.
All right, is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So move.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and it passes unanimously 5-0. We are now on item 10.01, which was originally 9.05. That was pulled off of the consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer Clerk.
Mayor, thank you. On this item is asking for your approval of an action. The Affordable Housing Preservation Corporation is a nonprofit corporation who has purchased apartment property here in Tallahassee, and they want to issue tax-exempt bonds to finance that acquisition. To do so, they require an action by the local jurisdiction. That's why the item is before you. The proceeds will be used for financing the acquisition and renovation of the apartments, which will then have an affordable housing component. So this item is before you for, recommended for approval.
Excellent. I'm the one that pulled the item. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
Excellent. So let me start off my conversations. And colleagues, the reason why I pulled this really was to highlight this incredible project and the fact that we're moving forward with it. This is creative public policy. This is how we move forward with affordable housing and for rental units at no cost to the city. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming together. This is a great project that I think all of us can be proud of. And with that, I'll entertain a motion for staff recommendation, option number 1, unless there's any other comment. I'm sorry.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes 4-0 with Commissioner Porter out of chambers. We are on item number 11.01. Municipal Code Enforcement Board reappointments. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. One moment. This item brings for you 2 seats with terms that are expiring next month and recommends consideration and approval of Matthew Latch and Judd West. Each would be a reappointment to a second term. Here for your approval.
Excellent. Any public comment on these items?
No, sir.
Okay.
Move staff recommendation.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Matlow. Okay. See no further discussion. Sure, Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have fond memories of serving on the Municipal Code Enforcement Board, so I just wanted to express my gratitude to, these are volunteers. It's a thankless position, but it's the hard work of the city, and I just want to thank them for their service.
Agreed. See no further comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. We are on 12.01, introduction of ordinance. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 12.01 is introduction of ordinance number 22-Z-03, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, designating and including additional territory located on 4.04 acres located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Capitol Circle Southeast and Munday Road and in Activity Center with historical preservation overlay from Activity Center on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee adopted and established by the City Commission, adding a structure to the local register of historic places, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, introduce ordinance number 22-Z-03 and set the first and only public hearing for April 20, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. in the City of Tallahassee City Commission chambers at City Hall. Any ex parte disclosures concerning this item are available via the hyperlink included in the agenda item as published in the board docs system.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
Recommended option is option number 1, which is simply the introduction of the ordinance, but let's open it up for discussion and direction.
Second.
Been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem. It's been seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. We're on item number 12.02. Madam Attorney.
Thank you. Item number 12.02, introduction of ordinance number 22-Z-04, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee amending the Blessed Sacrament Plan Unit Development on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee, located on 13.03 acres at the intersection of Miccosukee Road and East Brevard Street on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, introduce ordinance number 22-Z-04 and set the first and only public hearing for April 20, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. in the City of Tallahassee City Commission chambers at City Hall. Any ex parte disclosures concerning this item are available via the hyperlink included in the agenda item as published in the board docs system.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Richard Darabi is here to answer questions. Otherwise, no speakers.
Excellent. All right, let's turn it for direction.
Move acceptance of option 1.
It's Been properly moved by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Porter. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. We're on item number 12.03. Madam Attorney.
Item number 12.03, introduction of ordinance number 22-Z-15, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, designating and including additional territory located on 2.63 acres located at the northwest intersection of White Drive and West Tennessee Street between Dixie Drive and White Drive as in the City of Tallahassee Commercial Parkway from medium-density residential MR1 on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee, adopted and established by the City Commission, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Recommended action is option 1, introduce ordinance number 22-Z-15, and set the first and only public hearing for May 11th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. in the City of Tallahassee City Commission chambers at City Hall. Any ex parte disclosures concerning this item are available via the hyperlink included in the agenda item, as published in the board docs system.
No speakers. No public comment. Looking for direction? Comment? Colleagues?
Move staff recommendation on option number 1, Mr.
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
It's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Porter. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. We're on item number 12.04.
Thank you. Item number 12.04 is introduction of ordinance number 22-0-16, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 1, Division 3, Ethics Code, and Article 8, Lobbyist Regulations of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Tallahassee, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. At its March 9, 2022 regular meeting, the City Commission considered the Independent Ethics Board's draft ordinances as well as the City Attorney's recommendations and directed the City Attorney to introduce an ordinance based on the direction provided at the meeting. The recommended action is option 1, introduce ordinance number 22-0-16 and set the first and only public hearing for April 20th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. in the City of Tallahassee City Commission chambers at City Hall. As a part of this motion, I would ask that the proposed section 2-8 be modified for gender neutrality.
Okay, any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
All right, looking for direction?
I'll make the motion to accept option number 1, but I do have some discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Williams-Cox has moved for staff recommendation of option number 1. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. You're recognized for comment.
Thank you. Madam Attorney, you know, we've had some conversations about lobbyist matters. Is this where I should share this, or should I wait and do this at another part of the agenda?
I would think the sharing of ideas probably would be the best.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comment? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. We're on item number 12.05. Are you introducing this, or is Mr. Cook introducing this?
I'm introducing it, but I wanted to make sure that the last item included the change for 2-8 for gender neutrality in the motion.
You did.
Thank you.
Part of the staff recommendation. Yes, ma'am. 12.05.
Thank you. Item number 12.05 is introduction of ordinance number 22-0-17, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending by renumbering Chapter 2, Article 1, Division 3, Ethics Code, amending by renumbering Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 1, generally, and amending Chapter 2, Article 8, Lobbyist Regulations of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Tallahassee, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, introduce ordinance number 22-0-17, direct staff to reconcile it with ordinance number 22-0-16 for the purpose of publication notice and public hearing, and set the first and only public hearing for a single ordinance at the City Commission meeting on April 20th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. in the City of Tallahassee City Commission chambers at City Hall. The Treasurer Clerk is available to address any questions regarding this item.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
Mr. Clerk, how come we haven't had a policy discussion on this before it became for introduction of ordinance?
The thought was that the items were administrative in nature, and really a couple of them had been thought of by staff before, and the idea was that at such time as you considered ethics or lobbyist items, we would bring it back just so that they would come back at the same time. No reason we can't have a policy discussion, but the recommendations are staff-driven, not of the nature of the previous item, and the thought was that we believe those things will allow the program to be administered, but no particular reason to or not to.
Okay, before we start discussion, I just want to tell you, I would feel more comfortable having a policy discussion on this and allowing the public to weigh in. Two of the recommendations are, number one, waiving the lobbying fee, even as nominal as $25 down to $0, and getting rid of the lobbyist compensation quarterly reports. I do think those are two substantial issues that the public should have the opportunity to weigh in on. I would suggest that this comes back to us as a policy issue, first and foremost, and if the commission decides to be able to take public comment, and then if the commission decides to move forward with it, then it would come back as the introduction of ordinance. That's my position. Want to hear what y'all have to say. Commissioner Porter.
I think that's a good idea, and I can make the motion if we need one to bring this item back to us under policy, as a policy item.
Excellent. And I will second that motion. Are we clear on the motion? Excellent. So there's a motion on the table to bring this back as a policy item for discussion before we move forward. It's been made by Commissioner Porter. I seconded it. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. Do we have anything else under introduction of ordinance?
No, Mayor.
Wonderful. We're under policy formation, 13.01. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item provides an update on the master planning process for the Northwood property. It also provides an update on the community meeting that took place last week. That was the second community meeting to get input on the community's thoughts for the ultimate site plan. It also includes the next steps, the potential next steps regarding the Performing Arts Center and proposal. Specifically, we're seeking the City Commission's authorization of options 1 and 2 in your agenda material. Option 1 would simply be to accept the staff update, and option 2 would be to authorize the city manager to negotiate an agreement regarding the Performing Arts Center. We've got a presentation tonight that'll be led by John Powell, Devin Levins, and Rodney Lewis. Rodney Lewis is a principal with Lewis Whitlock. They are the ones doing the master planning for us. So and we've got some imagery. I think it'll be helpful, kind of how the site lays out. I think we've made a lot of progress since the last meeting. You'll recall the update following the January meeting. It was pretty, blank, and we've got a lot of good input, and I think the site is starting to take shape. So we wanted to share that with you tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Mayor and Commissioners.
Great to see you.
I'm John Powell. I'm the project manager for the TPD headquarters project at Northwood. And as you can see, the demolition is progressing well, extremely well. It is essentially complete. The main Northwood Mall facility has been totally knocked down and removed from the site. The former Milano's restaurant has also been demolished, and the construction debris is being removed as we speak, and the site is being graded, and then it will be seeded with grass before contractors will finally demobilize from the site, which we expect by the end of next week. All that will be left as part of the demolition is to take down the former bank building, which is on the corner of Tharp and Martin Luther King Boulevard, which will occur during the beginning of summer break once Raw Middle School is out, so that we don't impact the student drop-off and pickup activities. So at the same time, as we've been working diligently towards the demolition, we've also completed the pre-design phase of the project, which gave us the general size, shape, and configuration of that new facility. And then we moved into the more detailed schematic design, which we anticipate will be completed around June, at which time we'll move into the design development phase, which will further refine the design and document the building components. We also continue to work very closely with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection on the former dry cleaning contamination that is at the site. An additional round of soil sampling was finished yesterday, and once we have those laboratory results, we will work closely with the FDEP to determine the most appropriate path forward. So the next phase of construction that you will see at the site would be the installation of the utility infrastructure as well as the main roadways, which is currently forecasted to begin in November of this year. And with that, I will turn it over to Rodney Lewis with Architects Lewis and Whitlock, who will talk about the updates to the master planning process. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Rodney Lewis with Architects Lewis and Whitlock. We're working under Architects Design Group out of Winter Park on the project. So I'm going to walk you through the community meeting that we had last week. Was well attended, but our January meeting was extremely well attended. We had over 200 people at that community meeting. And at that point, we were really gathering information at that point in time. Last week's meeting was an update to the general public, and we've got some graphics to walk you through on that. Here you can see two overall site views. The one to the left is the original building in place. Amber alert. Ooh.
Well, sorry about that, Mr. Lewis. Keep going.
We bring the excitement.
Great comeback. That's funny, eh?
The map on the right is from the community meeting in January, and it was the big picture look where you're looking at the site for the TPD that had that site selection, and it's basically sitting on top of where the old Northwood Mall, the majority of that building was, and the grade transition. And then we started to look at the...
That's everybody else.
Yes, the second round. Then we started looking at the infrastructure, for instance, the traffic, vehicular, pedestrian, where that was going to occur.
That's the third one.
We'll keep rolling with it. The a pointer. I'm afraid to touch it. And we also looked at having development areas. And so these areas were identified 1, 2, 3, 4 around the site between our corner property, the middle property, the northern edge where we had El Jalisco and Hooters existing, and then the north property or north leg, which is an existing parking lot. What we numbered these on purpose so as folks would come to the tables, we could get feedback from them about what they would like to see on this property. During that process, we had not only visitors to the meeting and we documented their information, but we also collected information online. So everyone was allowed to provide their feedback on it. As a result of that, we took and we mapped each of these requests. So you can see here, and this is one of the graphics that we had 9 different graphics identifying different uses or amenities within the space. So that 1 mile radius began to see what kind of duplicity that we had with uses that were requested. Great exercise. And one of the results of that exercise was we identified items that did not exist within that 1 mile radius. And could those uses be appropriate uses on this particular property? And you can see these, whether it's outdoor space, whether it's arts, performance, infrastructure improvements, food, housing, all those were requested, and the depth of those colors on that particular spiral graph indicate the number or the intensity of requests that we had. Fast forward from that meeting to last week's meeting, we've taken the plan from a overall aerial view, kind of bird's eye view, into a 3D view, an axometric here. And you start to look at the potential for what could occur in the development of additional infrastructure. So now the roadway, instead of just a big wide swath going through, we're looking at the lanes of the roadway, the parking concepts, the amount of green space that we would have that not only serve as a safety buffer off of the police facility, but also serve as useful, whether it's learning gardens, park space. There's a lot of flexibility there. Also, with the master plan, we've taken a look at, instead of saying, here's what the development could look like in the future, we've taken a now, next, future. So it's a phased approach to the master plan. This particular view is a now view, which includes El Jalisco, Hooters, which each have 5 to 6 and some extendable lease agreements. So they're there, they exist. We can't pretend that they're not there. The police headquarters location has been solidified. That design work is in progress, as well as some of the roadway infrastructure. Also, we have some public parking component to the police headquarters, and that is termed here the mobility hub. Here's a couple of graphic sections through some of the parking. For instance, boulevard type space or boulevard type roadway. We're looking at parallel parking, bike lanes, vehicular lanes, and a planted median. That infrastructure we're looking at is about 100 to 102 foot wide as that goes through our site. This particular cut is your typical or primary roadway. You see some public parking and the potential for development shown on the far left. This particular view is a cut in front of the headquarters. We actually would not have parallel parking there from a safety perspective, but we're looking at trying to make use, whether it's a native garden or a bioswale, some level of improvement out of that safety setback that we have with the building. And then there's some secondary roadways where we'd like to see green space incorporated, whether that's park space or recreation space, something that could help separate some of our infill projects. Also, you can see here some of the green space, a traffic analysis, market analysis are in progress, and we're trying to work with those accordingly. But if we step from the now to the next, and here the commission has asked us to look at what was the potential of adding a performing arts venue to this particular site. So this is where we have addressed that kind of next step. And you'll see RA is a arts-focused magnet school, and the proximity to that, with that the corner connection between Tharp and MLK, that particular quadrant we've termed as a community and arts area. This particular site could hold the performing arts facility. So you'll see that as a graphic there. Obviously, it's a building that needs the potential to grow. And you start to look at the potential for some of your other adjacent sites, whether they could be parking, temporary parking. You look at the potential for the mobility hub. That could have EV charging. You could have some sort of food component there, Star Metro, bus stop, and maybe some improvements for crossing Tharp in some terms of connection across the street. Here I'm going to zoom in just in case from a graphic standpoint. I know the graphics get a little small on the TVs. This is a zoom in of the police headquarters site. You can see the public entry plaza is along a green space, what we've termed kind of the boulevard coming in from MLK. That's the only traffic light intersection and access into the site. The existing stormwater pond, this is probably a good graphic to see. One of the transitions from our first meeting to the second meeting with the public is we've taken this roadway that's bisecting the site, and we are integrating, instead of building that roadway all the way through the north, through that parking lot, the infrastructure exists there. It's already a roadway, a parking lot, so instead of spending money to do that, we would simply connect to it. An interesting transition and grade change there that has to be negotiated, but that pond exists. The stormwater improvements, the capabilities for the entire site are handled within that pond. Here, we're looking at the El Jalisco and Hooters parcels. You can see that kind of green space or the secondary roadways that divide those potential development parcels. You've got short-term uses, which I think the public, it'd be great to get additional feedback from the public for what could be used there, whether it's a farmer's market, bicycle training, a lot of different events that could use those parcels until development occurs. And here's a closer look at that mobility hub. Could also potentially be a parking garage in that location in the future from a planning perspective as you start to look at infill and making this more of an urban versus suburban site. And here we have the blow-up view of the community and arts quadrant. Great capabilities here for indoor, outdoor use of space, arts type festivals, things of that nature. So I definitely see this being a great venue location, but I do think you need to plan for expansion of a facility like this. It needs the room to grow.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so y'all see a lot of stuff's happening, right? We got to see the sites cleared. That's good. Real things are happening. It's not just things we're talking about. Things are getting going on the site. I'm just going to recap a little bit of this. So we see that the site's coming down. It's cleared up. John and his team are moving with that. Working with the consultants, we've been able to get out there in the community and really see what the community wants to hear on this site. The other night when we came back to the community, it was great to hear folks say, we've been heard. You're hearing us. That road that he talked about going all the way through the site, that was something we heard that we brought back was, let's see how we make this work for the community. So moving forward from here, you gave us direction last time to see if a performing arts center could fit on the site. You just showed us it can fit on the site. It could work on this site. So what we really want to see tonight is just have you guys accept the update for the demolition and then give us direction moving forward of how we start the negotiations for the performing arts center. And we're happy to answer any questions if you guys have any questions.
Why is Performing Arts Center on that piece instead of the corner piece? I mean, if we're talking about leaving room for possible expansion, why not flip-flop it?
You're saying in that corner, but further south?
So right there,
Yes.
I'm reading this correctly, that's the corner of MLK and Tharp, correct?
Correct.
And that space is left open for expansion.
Correct.
So why not flip it and have brick and mortar right there on the corner with the expansion opportunity on the proposed site right there? I mean, just why was the design that way?
When you look at the entrance to a performing arts facility, it's usually a pretty public space, grand. So putting that diagonal across from the public entry to TPD actually makes for a great environment. It fronts that space. You could have a drop-off valet into that location. Service is a big issue and a concern. A building like this, it's tough to have a backside to it. This site is very tough to have a backside to it because of the exposure. I'll say, this has been a very kind of quick process. Hey, will it fit? Yes, it will fit. Where does it go? Bigger question, bigger process. We've simply looked at several different locations. How does it fit? We like this in terms of a planning perspective, its ability to open onto that green space, its ability to be in a public venue in terms of pedestrian, its access to public parking, the roadway. There's a lot of different decisions with that, but I'm not saying it can't be in a different location. I'm saying from a planning perspective, we like this location a lot. The size of the building, the orientation of the building, that's a process that particular group will have to work through that process.
How big is that proposed building?
Looking at about a 23 to 26,000 square foot footprint in that particular location.
How big is the one depicted in the picture, Rodney?
This particular footprint is about 26,000 square feet. There's additional space shown for service, access, things of that nature. So you're looking at about a 2-acre, that kind of dark blue line is about a 2-acre plot where you've got potential for handicap parking, service, access, vehicular drop-off, and the building footprint itself.
Okay. I would told you, any other questions? I know we got public comment on this item as well. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Appreciate it. Let's go to public comment. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker on the item is Judy Sheridan, and each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks with, I'll give a heads up at about 2.5, but there's also a light that will go from green to yellow when you hit the 2.5-minute mark.
Hey, Ms. Sheridan, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Hello, mayors and commissioners and staff. Glad to be here. I'm Judy Sheridan, and I reside at 535 Woodfern Court. I'm here today as chairman of the Sheridan Center for the Arts Foundation.
We are asking the City Commission to support staff moving forward with an agreement between the city and the Sheridan Foundation for the construction of a performing arts center as identified as option 2 in the agenda item 13.1. The location is the parcel on the corner of Tharp and Martin Luther King Boulevard, consisting of approximately 4 acres, all of which is needed to fulfill the project we've been working with the city in good faith for the past 5 months. It is now identified on the map as Community Plus Arts, which it was formerly approximately 5 acres, called Area 1. Our reason for selecting this site in the Northwood Center is its location to 2 public schools, and we are encouraged by the safety of the new design, showing an improved pedestrian length to the schools and to the Lake Ella corridor. The plan is to build a community arts center that is designed to be used by nonprofit organizations, students, citizens, as well as visitors who will perform and attend activities and events. We desire to work closely with the organizations and to create an endowment to provide for subsidized access to nonprofit organizations that currently lack the capacity to pay full market rent. A community advisory committee familiar with the arts will be created that will assist in decision-making and will assure that a full community perspective is provided relative to diversity and inclusion. The Sheridan Center will set a new standard for equity, inclusion, and diversity by making this a center available for the whole community. One critical or crucial component is accommodating the needs of the physically challenged and our aging population. Those needs will be addressed inside and outside the center, again requiring the full 4-acre site for some on-site parking and special needs. Upon the approval of a contract with the city, the foundation will finally have a site to show prospective donors, and the Florida Center can now begin their fundraising commitment to raise $3 million, along with the private endowments and public grants to fully fund building costs prior to breaking ground. We have a tremendous job ahead of us. Our intent is to coordinate our fundraising with the estimated time frame of construction with the Tallahassee Police Department. The citizens of Tallahassee have shown their support through 2 community input meetings, and after 19 years of waiting for a performing arts center, they have hope that this really can happen.
Ms. Sheridan, if I can get you to wrap up your comments, that'd be great.
Just one more.
We're at 3. Go
Just
ahead.
one more sentence.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Now, we ask for your approval with an affirmative vote to begin negotiations for the agreement on the requested site and 4 acres to be identified as the Sheridan Center for the Arts.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Mr. Clerk.
Next speaker is Kathleen Spial. And then we have one additional speaker who will be on our WebEx connection.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you again. And to also continue this discussion about the Performing Arts Center. And I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing so far in the plans. So that's really fantastic. Thanks to everyone in the room that has been working on this so hard. We just want to, I'm here as Representative Coca because our sector, arts, culture, history, heritage, continues to have this very great need in this area. Because it's interesting, because, you know, no matter where in town organizations reside, no matter what type of performance that they offer, whether it is a music lesson or a dance performance, whether it's an acoustic concert or a symphonic extravaganza, their needs are the same. Rehearsal space, performance space, affordability, access, audience development, tourism, all those are the same when you look across the board. And they've remained so, even as the performing arts industry is still trying to recover from the pandemic. So as we've been working on this together since January, on behalf of the COCA board, that proposal that was moved forward at the time, which is a great collaboration between the city and the Sheridan Foundation of the Arts for professionally designed, community-based performing arts center, is an example of how multiple arts and cultural needs can be met. So if that proposal is honored with the very specific acreage that's between about 4.5 and 5 acres is honored, then this long-awaited need can be met. Now, I acknowledge that there's other factors that are still in discussion, and some of them have been incorporated into this plan, which is really encouraging to see. There's also some continued conversations about other locations of a satellite and additional community requests that are going to be incorporated into this plan. And we're part of those conversations, and we will continue to be. However, in order to keep this cornerstone development in place, the Sheridans need a commitment today on that development initiative in the way that they want it actualized, in the way that they've requested it be actualized. And a vote of support today from the commission in the original proposal of the requested acreage will do it. Please take a step today. Please support this development. Please continue to invest in this center as it was originally proposed. And you will see that multiple needs in the arts community are going to be met. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Kathy McGuire.
Ms. McGuire, are you with us? Ms. McGuire, are you with us? One more time. Ms. McGuire, are you with us online? We don't seem to have a connection.
Yeah, I don't see her identified on the screen or see a connection. So, Mayor, that's the last speaker on this item.
All right, we're going to open up for questions. Wayne, I don't know if you're the appropriate person, or Mr. Lewis, if you're the appropriate, or Devin. So the request that's coming from the public is for specific acreage, 4 acres. Is that what's being proposed? And if not, what's the difference? What's the delta? And why are we where we are? Or Mr. Manager, are you going to jump in on that one?
Well, I think Mr. Lewis is the best to answer this.
Okay.
So what you see depicted here, the entire parcel that's in gray that's labeled community and arts, that's about 4 acres.
Okay.
So that's refined, given the roadways, that kind of thing. It doesn't require any stormwater on site, so it maximizes that site. In this case, it was known or understood that the facility was proposed to be about 20,000 square feet. So that's why you see that depiction of the building. Mr. Lewis and his team laid it out. He described some of the rationale regarding the boulevard and that kind of thing. So I think he's probably best situated to talk about is that piece that you see highlighted in the darker green, is that adequate, and does it provide for expansion, parking, the things that we've heard? But it is that subset, it's not the entire 4 acres. Rodney, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so the corner there is approximately, I want to say like 4.23 acres, somewhere in that nature. The delta is because of the right-of-way. So at this point, your property or the development parcels were still in planning, so they're not platted, they're not specific. If that right-of-way were to be less, then the property could be slightly bigger. If that green space that is just adjacent to the boulevard became part of the development parcel is a little bigger. We've shown it as kind of a common area associated to the boulevard, to where maybe it's more in control of the city in terms of right-of-way, things of that nature. So to me, there is room for negotiation in terms of the actual size of this development parcel. It is locked in by the boulevard element from the street light that's on MLK. That is kind of that northern boundary. It needs to stay in that general location. That roadway is directed directly toward the entry of the new building. So having that off kilter would be a little odd. It's not to say it can't be done. So there is negotiation at that point. We are in the process of, we feel like we have solidified the roadways and trying to move that design forward. The parcel and the size, what we've depicted up there, I would say is the minimum, but you need parking. And so is the parking part of the property that's being assigned to the Performing Arts Center, or is it part of a city agreement? And there's different areas you have for parking in that location. So from a master planning standpoint, the allowed area for this development could be several different options. And so I don't don't know that we want to go through all of that at this particular point in time, but
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I think we do need to go through that because that was a significant consideration in terms of land maximization. I mentioned the stormwater piece, but the parking, the assumed large venue parking. So there's parking adjacent to the building that you see, but the large venue, when you need hundreds of parking spaces, are not assumed to be on that parcel. They're assumed to be elsewhere. And the mobility hub's one location. Now, I think we've got some on street. I think that is important to understand because two pieces of land consideration are parking and stormwater. And so those have been assumed that's not necessary in this venue. That doesn't mean there's no parking. There is parking, but it's not parking to support the venue in full use. And that's so you can get the most use out of that land and other parcels ultimately to be developed. Rodney, talk about that.
right, that's your kind of phasing as you develop this property. If you're going to have a bunch of surface parking, you're going to have a suburban look to this, which is not really desirable. You want to have this more of an urban infill. So with that, it's going to come structured parking. So you're going to need, whether it's the private sector bringing structured parking or the public sector bringing structured parking. You guys have been down that road before with things like Midtown and things of that nature, where that's more of an organic growth, and then you try and fit something in. Here you can have a planned process to that. So if you do have some structured parking, you're making some of your land more accessible to buildings and more of an urban infill, more of a mixed use, more of a vibrant neighborhood. So that's the approach that if the Performing Arts Center has that entire facility over time, they will expand their building, but they'll also need additional parking as you further develop some of the additional adjacent properties that could be used short-term parking.
Yeah, so Mayor, Commissioners, I think that would be assumed it would be accommodated not on that site. So I think that's really important to know. I mean, that was part of the logic. Of course, we're at the point to take your direction in terms of how you want to proceed, but it was done in a way to maximize the use of the site. There are no planned uses for that other grayed out parcel yet, but it would preserve that for the future so that the city could take direction and use it in complementary ways. But I think that's the logic. There was a lot of thought that went into it to accommodate it fully, allow for expansion, not to encumber the property or put the burden of stormwater and parking management on the Performing Arts Foundation. And that's the recommendation. The staff's recommendation is in the dark green outline parcel, but we're certainly looking for your direction on how you would like us to proceed.
All right, and I know we got, Commissioner Porter, you're going to be next, and we'll come down. I know we got a lot of questions on this. So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're saying that we can build the facility exactly like the Sheridans and supporters want, but we could do it on a smaller parcel?
The building itself. A building needs support space, parking, service, access, things of that nature. It also needs to be planned for expansion. This is not, I would not consider this request from the performing arts folks as grandiose, by no means. You have other communities that are looking to build $100, $110 million facilities that are very large. This is a very reasonable approach, but I do think it needs room to grow in the future. So I would not want to pin this building into a smaller parcel that potentially the adjacent parcel was sold to or developed in a different way. I think this does need room to grow. The building itself can fit, as we've shown it here, a very short planning process.
The mobility hub, is that, it's kind of vague. Are we talking a parking garage with a Star Metro state-of-the-art site as well, or what is the mobility hub?
I think that's a great option to discuss from a urban infill perspective. Having that capability there, you could have anywhere from 450 to 500 cars in that particular location. Having the EV charging, Star Metro, covered parking, things of that nature. There's some great advantages to that and great advantages to this overall site for future development in terms of mixed use and things of that nature. Some of your other parcels could support their own structured parking. It just depends on what that is eventually developed as. So whether it's mixed use, housing, what have you, some of those types of uses are tough to mix public and private parking. It can be done, it's done often, but this particular location makes for a great site for a future garage.
Last question before I turn it over to Commissioner Porter. So going back to the mobility hub, we technically could build a public parking facility, go up 4 or 5 stories, hide it with a facade so it doesn't look like a parking facility. That would take care of the parking needed for a performing arts center, except for the ADA requirements that do need to be closer to the building. And we could put a state-of-the-art Star Metro stop there as well, make it mass transit, make it vehicular, and have EV stations. It technically service the entire development plan if there was enough parking there as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to make sure that I understand exactly what we are voting on tonight. Are we voting on this proposal or a certain acreage, or just that we continue to have these discussions?
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner, the option is to authorize me or my designee to negotiate it. What you see depicted is what we believe is adequate for the site. If you wish to do something else, we're certainly looking for that direction. Any other terms or conditions that are important to you as we negotiate the agreement, whether it be the financing of the project, long-term operation, certainly we're looking for that direction. We've done our very best to make sure we depict what we think is reasonable, but any additional details would be helpful.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I see that it is ultimately going to come back to us. I just, frankly, I wasn't expecting this discussion tonight. I wasn't aware of, you know, I'm getting some mixed messages about whether there's agreement on this parcel being sufficient. Moving on from that, I'll go back to that. I do just want to say I'm really excited about this project, not only the Sheridan Center for the Arts, but this project as a whole. I'm really impressed with the progress that we've made. I've been really happy to see the community have so many ideas. They seem really excited about this. So that being, you know, I wanted to just acknowledge that. I was at the first meeting, I wasn't at the second. But I'm really excited. So another comment is we are just, I don't have any solution tonight for this, but as a community, I really think we are at a crossroads when it comes to how dependent we are going to be on cars, if we are going to continue to be a community that is auto-centric, or if we are going to endure the growing pains of a community that is more walkable, relies more on public transit and other forms of transportation, because we are going to continue to encounter this problem no matter what we develop. And so I do think that's something that, you know, I don't know what the solution is here. So correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, basically it's because we don't have a full plan for what we're going to do with, you know, we don't have a master plan complete. The question of parking is a little bit up in the air, and whether or not it's included in the acreage of the center or somewhere else. And then, so I understand that's kind of, is that the crux of the issue right now as far as the acreage for the center? Okay. Okay. And I assume y'all have talked about sort of, I mean, how many cars how many cars are we talking about, are we estimating for a night that's like a packed house at the Sheridan Center? Do we have those kinds of figures?
Potentially, with the current configuration, you could look anywhere between 500 to 650, depending on whether both venues within the center are active at the same time. So as typical with churches, you would not build for Easter Sunday, so to speak, in terms of parking. But the reality is, there's a lot of surface parking there now. And I think as the site matures and development comes to the table for you all to consider, you will have to start making some of those decisions. But initially, for this particular use, there is available surface parking in this location.
Okay. Well, I want to hear from my colleagues. I feel like on this option, I want to make one other comment, but on this option, I feel comfortable moving forward with staff negotiating. I just want to be as involved as possible with updates so that when it comes back to us, we feel like we're in a really good place that, we're all happy with and we've got, but as far as that is concerned, I'm comfortable moving forward. And then the second thing that I just wanted to ask, we all, I assume, got letters from ATN, and one of their asks was that we hire a recognized expert in public-oriented community development master planning to work with our planning department on a plan. I forwarded this request to you, Mr. Manager, and you sent me an update on some of the things we're doing. I was wondering if you could just elaborate on that.
Mr. Manager.
Actually, Commissioner, if you don't mind, Devin, can you help me with this? We've got a number of folks involved. Mr. Lewis indicated he's with Lewis and Whitlock. They're a Tallahassee-based firm. They have experience in this area. They are working under ADG. We've got a layering of contractors. Devin can say it better than me. Devin, would you mind kind of summarizing those involved and kind of the different roles everybody's playing?
Sure, yeah, this is like you said, ADG is a group that's got the consultant contract on this, and ALW is underneath them. They do the public facilities. That's what their business is public facilities, so EOCs, police stations. Then you actually have the contractors through AJAX that are working on this as well. And then our design team, like you said, is Rodney and his team. You have architects, landscape architects, and designers all across the board within their team. And they have that local knowledge of our community, so that's why they were brought on by the company from Winter Park to be able to get that local flavor.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Matt, I think I had Commissioner Matlow, Williams-Cox, and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the hard work so far. Just looking at it, I think the one thing we don't have a shortage of in Northwood right now is parking. It's almost entirely parking, and behind the trees, there's more parking. So when we look at the site in totality, and that's not to make light of the parking requirements for the facilities and making sure we're doing what we need to do, but looking at what we're starting to design so far, I think it is very important for particularly that corner, Martin Luther King and Third Street, not to be parking in perpetuity. To really have a cohesive flow in the environment and try to put parking in a place that's adequate for the entire facility. But I think where we may be seeing the disconnect is I just think I'm okay with the site as recommended because I think it's enough space for what needs to be built. But as we talk about the further redevelopment, ensuring our agreements with the Sheridans is there will be access to a set amount of parking spots to serve their facility. If that's structured in the future, if that's we don't develop part of it, so we maintain parking on site until we get to those facilities because we want to see it be successful. But I don't want to see the master plan of this facility, this whole acreage, driven by parking concerns. I want to see it driven by community concerns, design considerations, and best planning practices. So that's my feelings on the Sheridan part of it. I had a question about just your view on cyclist infrastructure being along the roadway or protected by the parallel parking, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. If we work our way back to some of those sections, here you can see there's, used to you'd see the stickers, 3 feet away. Well, it's really about 4.5 feet away is what is desirable now to protect yourself from opening doors and things of that nature. So we are looking at some of those practices to make sure we provide that width. Maintaining the bicycle safety At one point, we had actually studied and looked at moving the bicycle lane on the other side of the parallel parking near the sidewalk, but the crossover at intersections and things of that nature become more dangerous at that point. So we continue to study this, and we're studying it along with the traffic analysis that's underway as well.
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious. I've seen it done both ways in different areas. Intuitively, it seems safer, protected by parallel parking. I'm not sure cyclist preference and that sort of thing, but.
The advantage here is it's not, our speed limits, for instance, will be relatively low in this area.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And then on the greater visioning process, well, Mr. City Manager, so we've done community outreach, we've heard ideas. I thought it was very smart to look at what already exists, a ton of retail, senior centers and those things in the vicinity, and try to look where we can gain. I don't want to see us just do a bunch more retail. I think mixed use would be acceptable, but I don't want to see these go up to just, I mean, we have a lot of public purpose things that people want to see. So right now we have the different areas and short-term use. We've gotten some ideas, but what comes next? What's the decision-making process for, are we waiting for offers? Are we going to decide exactly what we want to build and put that out, or?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lewis mentioned that we've got a traffic analysis underway. That's going to be informative, as well as a market analysis. So we've heard a lot from the public about things, different kinds of uses, so that kind of factors in. So the next update will be, and we'll continue to engage the public. I think you'll see a lot of that well, I know you'll see a lot of that engagement, but we need the market analysis as well to see what's possible, because some of it may be timing. There may be things that you as the City Commission want to do, but the market says, we're not ready for that. So you may just say, well, let's wait, or you can make your decision based on what seems most plausible. So that's the next step. I think will be in the summer as we get that kind of information. In the meantime, the TPD headquarters is under design and kind of moving forward. Mr. Powell mentioned that we would expect the horizontal infrastructure to you'd start to see some movement on that in terms of the roads and the readiness of utilities. That doesn't really dictate anything, but allows the site to get in order for, basically site readiness. So I think those are kind of the next steps we would expect.
So if we decide to dictate some of those uses, I'm just trying to see, is there a further planning process that we're anticipating? Are we looking at our capital improvement project budget to see if there's going to be additional public facilities in there? I'm just trying to see, have we already given direction to plan it that thoroughly, or are we just deciding parcels and kind of waiting till later? Is that...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is very much a work in progress, Commissioner. What you see in the firmness is roadways, making sure we have stormwater conveyance, water and sewer available, electric, that'll be all underground in there, those kind of things. The actual use of the parcels, it is a work in progress. We're not on any timetable at this point, other than developing it and thinking it through, making sure that we put this site in the best position to be successful. Mr. Lewis indicated, for example, you've got two going concern businesses that are renting from the city. They're on a pretty long lease. I don't remember the terms, but it's not near term. That's a decision point. Do you want to make that land available? What we also anticipate is that land adjacent to it, that you may see speculators begin to try to acquire that land. So I think, again, work in progress, taking direction from the commission, community input, no decisions have been made.
Okay, thank you. I would just like us to be a little more deliberate as we move forward and start planning this process and really declare what we want as a commission to see developed here. I think, when we made the decision to buy Northwood Mall really on the fly with no notice, we knew what we were getting into, but it's because we wanted, ultimate control of what this entire site was going to look like. So I just think that's going to be very important. Personally, I think the market's ready for housing, particularly affordable housing, as well as low-income housing. I think, that will take public dollars that we should expedite certain areas of it, but I do want to see us continue to take public feedback and really declare what we want to see, and whether that's going to RFP to find partners for what we want to see built here, or what the process is. But I don't want to see this drag on and then receive unsolicited offers that we're deciding who to sell it to before really saying what we want to see here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox.
I want to understand that the scale of what is being designed for the building is larger than what was originally requested. Is that correct? Looking at front row right now. Because I think, did I hear you say it was 26,000 square feet?
26,000 square feet.
Okay.
The decision there will be, depending on how many levels, 1-story versus 2-story, that, so the facility itself will have a larger footprint if it doesn't have as many levels. So that all still is in play in terms of planning for the particular use.
With, and with room for expansion if we don't turn it into additional parking?
Definitely, that parcel will allow for future expansion. Yes.
I like the location because having an entrance to a performing arts center from a main thoroughfare like Tharp Street could really be dangerous. I kind of like the fact that you have to come off of a main thoroughfare and do that parking, do that drop off and have that entrance there. I also would hope that, I know we currently have 2 restaurants already there, but I'm thinking about after a good performance, that would be nice to have like a cheesecake factory or something there. Just saying.
First time I've ever heard that.
Just saying. So that, after a good performance, you're going to have a, family meal. Not that you couldn't do it at the other locations, but just thinking along those lines. I too I'm a little bit concerned because there seems to be some misunderstanding or something. Because, and I can't figure out what it is. So let me just tell you what I've heard, so you can dispel it. I've heard that the acreage is being reduced from, is it 4 acres to 2 acres? That's what I've heard. So can you clarify that?
That particular parcel is plus or minus 4 acres, almost up to 5 if you include the green space, and depending on the width of the right-of-way. The darker blue area that's being shown on the screen is plus or minus 2 acres. It's about half of that parcel. We've simply identified that in this planning process as the building's site location and service and entry space. That's not, if you were to take any particular business, for instance, the building and its immediate service and access is a small portion of the lot. The rest of the lot is parking, access, turnaround, waste management, all those other things. So in this urban infill type environment, there's going to be additional need for that. We've simply identified where the accessible parking service and the building could be here. But I don't want there to be any misconstrued thoughts that we're saying this development only needs 2 acres. It needs more, but from a planning perspective, we're showing that that venue can fit here.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
If I need to clarify that further, I will, so.
Okay, that's what I'm about to find out, Mr. Mayor, if I can ask I'm getting cues from the audience.
Sheridan, you want to come join us?
Yeah, so we can get some.
But why specific? I think the commissioner's right, and I think we all want to know, why specifically are we asking for the 4?
Well, number one, we were going to have 3 venues, and they're not 2. We were going to have a total of 850 seats available. And if we use a formula of 2 people coming in a car, that's 425 parking spots. And that's what we figured on another location that we were looking at. And that's where I got that figure. So if I'm told that that mobility hub right now has 195 parking spots, we're already in trouble there. We are going to need to have all 3 venues used so that we can make the numbers work. We've taken the numbers and we figured out how much it's going to cost to run this facility, $422,000. And we figured we would probably have VIP parking in there. That's also a source of revenue, just like you have at FSU, at the stadium, and various other areas. But what we're not talking about is future expansion, and I don't want to be landlocked. That gray area is very important to us because, you know, one of the things that we were considering, 450-seat venue, and then 2 additional venues at 200 seats. We were also looking at 700 seats because at some point in time, TSO and other large nonprofits are going to need to leave FSU. FSU needs the space. We want to be able to grow into that gray area. And in the meantime, we want to use that as our parking, temporary parking, that gray area for our assisted living. We've got people that have, my husband has gone from wheelchair walkers, canes. We have people that have foot surgery with lung problems, heart problems. We're old. And if you look around, we've got a lot of assisted living facilities, and we need to take care of these people. We are limited. Mike Sheridan and I are limited on our social life, on things we can do because we can't get in and out of the buildings. Okay? But what we want to do is we want to use that temporarily. We don't want to come in on a Saturday morning where we have venues planned and we find out that over there in that gray area we have a boat show or we have a car show, or we want to have control of that 4 acres there. And we want to be able to use that to be able to grow in Tallahassee. We don't want to be landlocked. We aren't just looking at that one facility that we're talking at 26,000 square feet. We want to be able to grow, and Tallahassee needs it. But we just don't have the money to build that whole thing out. Unless we can get a corporate sponsor, unless you can provide the funds for us to build out that 4 acres, we'd be happy to do it. And Tallahassee could probably use it. At this point in time, I don't think we can have 1,800 seats and be able to fill them and be able to make money. We have figured that out with the Civic Center. So that's what I'm seeing, that we're looking at that box up there, and they're thinking that this is our whole facility. This is not. We want to grow into 4 acres. We're not thinking that we want to put that 28 or 26 or 2,000 square foot building on 4 acres of land. That's not what we want. We want to grow. And we don't want you to take and that parcel that's next to us and sell that out, and then we don't have any room to be able to grow into our community. And already we're behind times. We should have done this 19 years ago, but we didn't do it. And so we are taking baby steps because the government isn't doing it. We as the private sector is doing it. We're taking the risk. We're going to manage it. And we want you to donate whatever we negotiate, whether it's a long-term lease. We want you to have faith in us because Mike Sheridan and Judy Sheridan have gotten their reputations and have been successful because of our integrity. This is what we want to do, and we want you to trust us. And I hope that you will reconsider today and make that the Sheridan for the Arts is that 4-acre tract, and where it's not our intent to do anything sneaky or be able to use that for any other reason other than a performing arts for the city of Tallahassee. Any questions?
Ms. Williams-Cox, you got the floor again.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan.
You're welcome.
I think that was
Ms.
clear.
Thanks, Ms. Sheridan.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm trying to understand that, too. Because Judy, the original proposal was the 4 acres for the 26,000 square foot facility. I didn't hear discussions about future growth. I assumed that the 4 acres was for the facility and parking. And so this is the first time I'm hearing that you all are contemplating growth onto the 4 acres, if that's what you're granted. And so when I heard the city manager say that, we've taken care of stormwater, we've taken care of parking on an adjacent site, except for what you've discussed in terms of ADA and for persons with, senior citizens who may be mobility challenged to be able to access the facility. So now you're telling us that there may be plans to build out the entire 4 acres, and if you are, I had not heard that before.
Commissioners and Mayor, I appreciate you you're allowing me to come back up there and be able to clarify what is being said, because all you are looking at is what the master plan is and what they heard us say, that if it was really 20,000 square feet that we were planning on building originally of the 3 different venues, because you know what? That's all we can afford. And 1 year ago, I priced this out, and this is before building cost, and what we were looking at was about $9 million. I have gone back and asked for other additional bids, and with the price of building materials, we're now looking at $12 million for that. And then with our surveys that we have done with COCO, they did a second survey, and the need for additional rehearsal space that we could use, additional or 2 rehearsal spaces that could also be used for classrooms for Leon County schools. And if we take that, that's what expanded us into what Rodney has indicated, that was 26,000 square feet within that facility. But it's been our intent that we take that whole place and we start off small and we're able to expand. And I hope you give us that opportunity to do that.
But Judy, could you expand how?
We need money.
Because they've said that the 2 acres can accommodate growth in your facility. Mm-hmm. Are you saying you're going to need?
Yes. If we take and we move that parcel back, as the mayor had suggested, back toward Tharp Street, all we want is a 1-story building because we want it to be handicap accessible. Mm-hmm. And if we take that and move it back, we don't want to put in elevators. We've been, you get a long line of people trying to get into elevators. They're never large enough, for one elevator. We want to be able to leave that portion that is currently drawn in there as a larger facility, because you know what? Then they can go up 2 stories. Then if you have the Tallahassee Police Department across the street from us, and they are 3 stories, a 2-story would be more compatible, and those 2 facing each other would be much more compatible. All we're trying to do is start off small, give us back there in the corner, and we'll be able to expand and have a beautiful whole 4 acres that would be able to be used. And then at that point in time, we are definitely going to need a parking garage. And I will let the future discuss that one. I'm not going to bring that to you, but we would be outgrown. We will outgrow the parking that would be available to us. And you know what we don't want? We don't want to go over to Publix parking lot and have people walking up and crossing the road. That's what we're doing at Ruby Diamond, and that's what people can't do and don't want to do anymore. We want to have our parking and our facility right there together, and we don't want to outgrow it. And this is not New York City where people are used to walking 5 blocks to a theater or whatever. We want to have this on site.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I guess the question that I would ask the city manager, in light of what we're hearing for the first time today, because Judy, this is the first time I'm hearing this about the expansion. Could that be taken into consideration in the ongoing negotiation?
Commissioner, we can negotiate anything for that
Okay.
matter. I don't want to just throw it out there like that. I think it is important, though, that normally what we would do as staff is we would make sure we're providing you our best recommended action. We believe that to be that parcel outlined in the aqua green. In that assumption, there's an obligation to provide for parking by the City of Tallahassee. That's worth a lot of money and resources. We're not assuming that parking largely is on that site. That could flip. We could allow for temporary parking. I think we can negotiate that in. You could have a transition plan. You could have an option on that second piece of land. But generally, my recommendation to you is if you're the landowner, which is the City of Tallahassee, you probably want oversight and control of that. Whatever the plans may be of the Sheridans, you want architectural control, you want future site planning control, because it is the land of the City of Tallahassee. We could certainly negotiate options and could even incorporate, we could pull back and put the parking on that site and make that the responsibility of the venue. And we're open to that. We're providing our best planning recommendation in terms of how you use the land the best, you accommodate parking, you have future expansion of a contiguous facility. I'm not sure if we're talking about different facilities. So I wish I had a better answer than that. There's lots of options. You could certainly negotiate for the 4 acres and put it under the control of the performing arts venue.
Okay.
So-
That's kind of what I would like to see happen, Mr. Mayor, is that be considered in the ongoing negotiations. And if you all come back to us with this same recommendation, I'm going to say move forward. But because this is the first time we're hearing this today, I think it should be made a part of the ongoing negotiation and then brought back to us the next time we have this update. So I'm going to leave that where it is, if that's the will of the commission. But I'm going to go back to an issue also that Commissioner Matlow brought up, and that is the issue of housing on the site. I know we've had that discussion. Judy, you can.
You finished?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you, Judy.
We've briefly touched on the need for affordable housing in that site. I'm, as you all know, I serve on the board of the Tallahassee Lenders Consortium, and we had a board meeting recently, and there was a desire to include more affordable housing, low income and affordable housing in the South City area. I took exception to that because it concerned me that we're continuing to congregate low income and affordable housing, however we define that, in that South City area. I feel very strongly that that shouldn't happen and that it should be equitably distributed throughout the community. And so the issue of, well, if we don't do it here, we've had discussions about properties on the Northwood site. And so I would put that out there for us to consider, that there be low income and affordable housing on this site. I think it would be appropriate for us to do that. There is none currently in that quadrant of the city. And so I would put that out there for our consideration as well as we go forward in agreement with Commissioner Matlow, especially in light of, what we know has been one of our major priorities, second only to public safety, but, a part of what we heard last night at the public meeting in terms of the need for more very low income housing. And I think this would be an appropriate site for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I think that if we walk out tonight with the recommendation for option number 1 and option number 2, that gives the flexibility for staff to continue negotiations. What the Sheridans are looking for is a hard commitment to 4 acres tonight as designated. I'm not hearing that from my colleagues as we are discussing. although I do think that option number 2 allows for the negotiation of that if it calls for it as they continue to go forward. And I think that's the delta right now between the formal ask and between what's being presented before us. On a separate note, I agree with you. I think this is a great opportunity for housing. When you think about the fact that we already own the dirt, we get creative with the land trust that we have. We know that the price of construction, the dirt cost itself contributes significantly to the price of construction, gives us the opportunity to put it in the land, some of it in the land trust, build an incredible product. You know, you envision teachers, you envision police officers, being able to live, work, play, walk. You do have some retail as well, some restaurants, performing arts center. I agree. I think there's great opportunity for the future of the planning of it, and I'm right there with you. But for tonight, the options before us is option number 1, which is the acceptance of the staff update on the demolition, which, by the way, great job on the demolition to our team. Fantastic job. I have watched it every day as I drop my son off at school, and it's just been amazing. And I'm real proud of the team, what they've done.
Mr. Mayor, I would move the recommendation of staff with the amendment that the ask that the Sheridans have brought forward today be included in the negotiations going forward.
Be considered. Okay. So the motion on the table is for option 1 and option 2 as amended, and seconded by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox. Okay. Are we clear on the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I wanted
For a comment. Yes,
for
ma'am.
a comment. I just wanted to add. I'm glad you made that motion, Commissioner Richardson, because I hear what Ms. Sheridan is saying, and we want to envision not just for right now, but for the future. I'm getting old too, so I want to be able to walk into the Performing Arts Center and be comfortable. So I think we do need to think about what we're doing going into the future, and we're just hearing it tonight, but that's okay. Nothing's been built yet, so we're still in time. So I'm encouraging city manager and staff to let's see what we can do to make this happen for our community. We've waited, as Ms. Sheridan said, it's been 19 years we've been waiting on this performing arts. Now we just need to do it right, because we don't have another 19 years for it to happen. And I too agree with Commissioner Matlow and with Commissioner Richardson regarding housing. And what I like about this site is that it makes it equitable, because we need to have affordable housing, we need to have low-income housing throughout our community, so that there's no stigma attached to where people live, because people can live any and everywhere. There's residents of this city that can live any and everywhere they want to live, and we shouldn't pigeonhole folks into a certain part of town just because their check is not bigger than, as big as the mayor's check. So, you know, so I like that. I can support that. I don't know how big your check is, but let's talk.
All right, there's a motion on the table made by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. Thank you all so much for coming out. We appreciate it. Rodney, thank you so much for what you and the team are doing as well.
Absolutely.
Keep up the great work. Okay. Excuse me, Mr. Lewis. Sorry. All right, we're on item number 13.02. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. We've got a special item that we would like to present, and we need your authorization to recommend that the Florida National Register Review Board approve the nomination of Jake Gaither Golf Course to be added to the National Register of Historic Places. As we know, Jake Gaither is important to our community, has significant historical value. In fact, it opened in 1956 as a golf course built for African Americans who at the time could not play on other courses in our city, and it has a long, rich history. If you go out today, we will all be proud of the conditions of the course, the remodeling of the clubhouse, and activities that's around. I shared previously a video with the commission and others that we'd like to share again tonight for the benefit of the public. Before I do that, if I could take a moment, though, Commissioners, Jan Auger is she's the spirit behind a lot of what we're doing. You know Jan, and I'm going to put her on the spot. She's with some of her folks that I want her to also recognize. That Jan, if you could just say a word, but also I want you to recognize the folks that are with you and what they do today to make Jake Gaither a special place before we play the video. I know I just threw you a curveball. I know, Jan. Yeah, come on. Let's do it.
No, it was a golf ball.
Yeah.
It was a
Jan,
golf
come
ball.
on and join us, please.
He
Good
threw
to
you-
see you.
Jan, he threw you a golf ball. Did you catch it?
Sure did. Well, thank you, commissioners and mayor and, of course, Mr. City Manager and appointed officials. This is my Jake Gaither crew. And we're so proud of Gaither and where it's come from over the years. I'm going to actually ask each one of them to come up and talk a little bit about
Great, now she's throwing me curveballs. Shane Bass, golf course superintendent for both Highland and Jake Gaither golf course. Been there through much of the new improvements of the cart paths and some of the landscaping we're doing and the redoing of the clubhouse and stuff. And I'm at both places, but these are the two guys that run it every day. The operation there at Gaither, the day in, day out is these two and all.
Awesome. Good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is Tian DeWent, Supervisor Jake Gaither Golf Course.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Stewart, Foreman of Maintenance there at Jake Gaither.
I'd like to tee up the video, if possible.
No pun intended, right?
If I could just say a word, though, these folks, they work unbelievably hard and have made, they've taken a little and done a lot. And I just would like to express my appreciation for what you guys do. And Tiant and his wife, Sharifa, works in our customer operations. They do a great job. So I'm glad you guys are here. And commissioners, if you don't mind, we would love to share the video for you and the benefit of the public. Thanks, Jan.
Before 1956, there was only one golf course in Tallahassee. And while African Americans could work at the course, they were not treated equally.
What hurt so bad was we could caddy over there, but we couldn't play. We used to sneak onto the golf course, the backside of Magnolia Drive. Sometimes they catch us and run us away. Sometimes we got a chance to play those 3 holes over and over and over again.
When Jake Gaither first opened on December 14, 1956, it gave African Americans an opportunity to play the game. Among them was Leroy Kilpatrick. He made the Guinness Book of World Records in 1995 for playing a whopping 1,363 holes at Jake Gaither in 7 days. Now in his 80s, Kilpatrick was 16 when he and his friends played Jake Gaither Golf Course on opening day. He remembers it like it was yesterday.
And we was out here knowing the golf course was opening, and when the mayor of them came in and he went down and played one hole, and they left. And when they left, we hit the golf course.
Retired Florida A&M Business School professor Ronald Tate had an early encounter with Jake Gaither Golf Course as well.
When I first came to Tallahassee to go to FAMU, Jake Gaither was our home course, our only course that we could play in Tallahassee. And it wasn't very fancy at all, to say the least. Very, very Spartan.
Since its humble beginnings, the course has received many enhancements. Jan Auger, longtime manager, the Jake Gaither and Heileman golf courses, has overseen the progress.
We've really improved the fairways. There's a lot more definition to the fairways, and we put cart paths all throughout the golf course. We've added a lot of landscaping that looks just tremendous, and we've also renovated the bathrooms, and we are in the process of renovating the pro shop. It's going to look fantastic.
Irene Perry doesn't get to go to the golf course much anymore, and she misses it.
I just wish that I could be out here every day. I would slip out here. My husband didn't even know where I was.
Miss Irene Perry was here. She was the only lady on this golf course, and they would always tell her, go home, get away from me, get away from me. I said to them, I said, nah, she's gonna play here one day.
And Miss Perry didn't just play golf, she excelled at the sport, becoming president of Jake Gaither's Women's Golf League.
It would be certainly nice if we had an organization just for women. You know, not only are we doing something for ourselves, but we're doing something for the community in general.
Now it's the top.
Coach, help me take to the top. Good.
Jake Gaither Golf Course is a favorite of Jaworski Vance. He's an executive director at Fathers, Brothers, and Sons, a nonprofit dedicated to fatherlessness and racial reconciliation.
And one of the things that we do to address those two issues is teach young people from minority communities how to play golf. And we do that out here at Jake Gaither.
I want to let you young people know that if you're here for golf, golf will open doors for you. All the kids in this program went on to do great things in life. And you know, kids of today is leaders tomorrow, and that's what we're looking for, and that's what we started back then.
Be committed, stay focused, and that's golf.
Scott Edwards is working on getting Jake Gaither Golf Course added to the National Register of Historic Places. Edwards grew up in Tallahassee and is no stranger to the golf course because he too played there as a kid.
My father and my older brother would come out here and play, and we were just some of the regulars that would come out here all the time. So over the years, I had been collecting data on the golf course itself, and probably within the last few years, we really started pushing hard of doing research and documenting the beginnings of the golf course here. Being listed on the National Register, it just puts Gaither's place in American cultural heritage, and it's a showcase for that. It will highlight the history that's here that most people have no idea when they come out here and play.
My hope is it's going to be added to the historic designation, the National Historic Designation, and to get the recognition that it deserves.
Jake Gaither has always been a hub to bring the community together.
It's all beautiful. I just love it, and I love the way the golf course looks today.
The City of Tallahassee's Jake Gaither Golf Course is 65 years old. A pillar of the community, the course has brought generations of golfers together and will continue to be a uniting force for years to come.
It's a golf course for everyone, and it's going to get the notoriety it deserves.
Excellent. Mr. Manager, final comment on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We ask for your support to nominate the course from the National Historic Register.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk, we got any public comment on this item?
We do have one speaker, Mayor Stanley Sims.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. I'm excited to see this happen. Jake Gaither has been a pillar in that community as long as I can remember. I saw Mr. Robert Mungin, but my mind goes back, Curtis, Commissioner Richardson, to also Mr. Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
To Mr. Lane. I even remember them complaining to the city all the time about that ninth hole flooding. God has brought us a long ways. And just like they said in that video, that was our refuge. We could not go to country club. And not only that, it's so many times, Ms. Agner, I got a whooping because we used to dance at Jake Gaither Park. 50 Cent. I saw Miss Lawrence on there. Watching that video was like my childhood going back. And to see you preserve something that is momentous to this community is honorable. It is honorable. Because Miss Catherine Lawyer, who was on there, watched our children. Dr. Gladys Lane lived right down Rackley Road, right down there. Mr. Mungin, all you had to do was cross the street. I graduated with Mr. Mungin's daughter, Toyka Mungin. We were a network. A community center is a network. And I know Toyka's daddy would be very proud because he was real strong about putting golf. Mr. Herman, we didn't want a golf thing. You know what we wanted? Curtis, we wanted a pool. I mean, Mr. Richardson, we wanted a pool. But Mr. Mungin said, no, you can swim in the lake. That's what he told us. But to learn golf was a disciplined game. This is what built our community. I call them OGs like this. And I just ask, as we remember Mr. Lawrence and those other fellas, like we record, I know they may not have been, it might be out there or not, but Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Lane, they need to be remembered as well. Thank you. And take me off, because it's cold in here. I'm going.
Our next speaker, please.
That's the only speaker we have on this item.
All right, let's open it up for discussion. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Move acceptance of recommendation.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any further comment? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 13.03, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, sir. This item seeks your approval to apply for and expend funds from the RAISE grant. The RAISE grant is a part of the Rebuilding American Infrastructure and Sustainability Equity Grant. We believe we are well poised to receive this grant. We're hopeful. We don't want to be too optimistic. But in this particular case, it involves our South City Transit Center. We would seek a grant of $8 million, which would require 20% local match. And we've already received support letters from Congressman Lawson, as well as Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Director Angela Baldwin is here if you have any questions on this item.
Excellent. Do we have any public comment on this item, Mr. Clerk?
We do not.
All right. Direction?
Is that
Question?
$11 million?
Question?
Angela, will you help me on the total?
Yes, sir. It's $8 million that we're requesting from the USDOT, and $2 million would be our match, city match, and $1 million blueprint.
So move.
Second.
Probably moved by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any further comment? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 13.04, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item, similar to the previous, seeks your approval to seek a grant from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. The monies from this grant are derived from the Volkswagen diesel emissions settlement agreement and have flowed down through the state to administer. Public transit agencies are eligible to receive up to $900,000 to purchase a bus for every 2 buses they purchase with other funds. As you know, we have moved rapidly into our renewable energy plan to move our bus fleet to electric. Now about a third of our buses are already battery electric. And we believe, again, in this case, we're well poised to receive the money because we have the infrastructure in place and the operations in place to continue to expand our fleet. We're seeking your permission to move forward with this. And again, Angela Baldwin, our Director of Star Metro, is here to answer questions on this item.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
Colleagues, direction, questions?
Move acceptance of recommendation.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Porter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 13.05, Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 13.05 is the approval of resolution number 22-R-07, authorizing eminent domain action for construction of Summerbrook and Cawthorn subdivision interconnect. This item requests City Commission approval of a resolution authorizing the city attorney or her designee to initiate an eminent domain lawsuit in order to acquire private property owned by Summerbrook Property Owners Association for the Summerbrook and Cawthorn subdivision interconnect project. Prior to the City Commission's direction to initiate the eminent domain process on March 24, 2021, City staff received correspondence from representatives of the Summerbrook Property Owners Association that communicated their concern for the interconnection on Conservancy Drive, preference for the interconnect on Preservation Road, and a request for the city to condemn the Property Owner Association owned property that would allow this interconnection. This property has been proposed, and construction will take place in, over, under, across, and through the lands adjacent to the eastern intersection of Summerbrook Drive and Preservation Road. The project provides for improvements to traffic patterns between the two subdivisions. I've asked the clerk to pass out
and he has provided to you a substitute for the description of the property to be attached to the resolution as Exhibit A due to an error in the one attached.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We have no speakers on this item.
All right, commissioners, discussion, direction.
Move acceptance of recommendation.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Porter. In no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Passes unanimously 5-0. Do we have any other items come before us during policy formation and direction? Seeing none. All right, we are on unagended business speakers. Mr. Clerk, do we have any speakers come before the City Commission on unagended items?
Mayor, we have two speakers. The first is Audrey Lewis. The second is Richard Dusenberry. So Audrey Lewis.
I don't see her here, Mr. Mayor. She was here earlier, but I don't.
Ms. Lewis, step outside. She can hear our voice. Ms. Lewis. Let's move forward with our second speaker then.
Second speaker is Richard Dusenberry. That makes
Dusenberry
the only speaker we have for tonight in the unagended portion. I'll bring each of you a handout that he provided just a moment ago.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Your name and address for the record, please.
Richard Dusenberry, 439 West Georgia Street. Kathy and I are original homeowners in Carolina Oaks. The principle is that attractive homes can bring stable families into a neighborhood, and that necessarily revitalizes the neighborhood. Pretty impressive picture, isn't it? Bethel Baptist contribution, Frenchtown revitalization. This was 2009. We moved in there in 2006. This was our homeowners picnic. Now let's see what this is. The picture of City of Tallahassee policy toward Carolina Oaks and Frenchtown. There has been almost no shenanigan you could dream up that hasn't been used to try to disrupt this neighborhood and to harm Frenchtown. I want to tell you also that you make me sick. My doctor does not even know that I live in Frenchtown, but he knows that I have polymyalgia rheumatica. Look it up under PMR. An autoimmune condition in which your immune system attacks your own body. And it's driven by rage and anger. My doctor says you've got to cut this out. You can't continue to be angry about this. He doesn't even know what it is I'm angry about. You understand? He just knows what's causing my problem. You're making me sick. It attacks the muscles. It's both debilitating and it's quite painful. I'm on drugs to suppress my immune system. Now, how smart is that? You're going to be on, you suppress your immune system during a pandemic. Get it? I mean, pretty stupid. Okay, and then I see what happens to Frenchtown advocates. I see what happens to Annie Harris and to Jim Bellamy and to Darrell Scott, and you just wear them out and chew them up. So I can't do it anymore. Just can't do this anymore.
You're at 30
I
seconds.
have you a memo that I have distributed to you before. I will read it to you from it. Tax credits subsidized below market rental housing projects are concentrated in Frenchtown. You all voted for the Frenchtown quarters, which is the largest yet. This goes against Obama administration HUD rules. It goes against Black Lives Matter. It goes against best practice in the location of these housing projects. It goes against the interest of leaders of Frenchtown. It goes in favor of racial separation in housing, racial discrimination in housing, and it's pro-Trump. We're going to protect those, remember those suburban women. Okay.
I can get you to wrap up your comments, please. That'd be great.
Can't take it anymore. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Our next speaker, please.
We have no additional speakers.
Okay, we're on City Commission information and the sharing of ideas. I'm going to kick things off. In 2017, when I was a member of the County Commission, I helped work with a group to secure a state historical marker for the original Lincoln High School. And I think it is high time, and we all received an email recently in support of moving forward to place the original Lincoln High School, the physical structure, both on the local register of historic places and the national register of historic places. And I think it's appropriate to ask staff to formally move forward with both of those initiatives. Now, does that need to, I guess that needs to come back to us as a policy item? Or how do we begin this journey, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir. I'd like to bring that back and just describe the process and,
That'd be great.
and get your direction on that.
I'd like to make that motion, please. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox. Any comment? Yes, ma'am.
I received an email too recently because there was, I guess, a school board action that took place that's going to remove portions of the facility that's there. And there was some concern about removing the brick structure part of that. Can we, I don't know if the rest of us got an email on that, but I did get an email. I'll share it. So when we move forward, let's include that information in it so that we have a full, comprehensive knowledge of what is actually going on there.
Great point. Yeah. Any other comments?
Just from my knowledge of it, Commissioner Williams-Cox, that building, it really should have been torn down by now.
Okay.
It's in terrible condition. It's even being propped up right now. And I think and the reason I was involved when Mark Baldino was president or executive director of Elder Care Services, they were interested in that site, because it was in the Frenchtown community. And we determined back then that, or the school board, because it's school board property, they determined then that it was in such horrific condition that I don't know that it can be used for any other purpose at this point. So that's why nobody has moved forward with doing anything with that property.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the school board is going to be doing something, because just because it's going to be difficult doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything. And we wouldn't let something like that sit in another neighborhood under those conditions. Yeah. So I'm glad that the school board is now see the merit in moving forward, or the school superintendent or whomever it is. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we'll get that cleaned up and cleaned out, because we don't know what the environmental impact is for that building sitting there that long in that shape.
All right. Any other comment? See none. I made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. That's all I have. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Mr. Barnhart earlier today made the suggestion that we consider naming a street after the Adderley brothers. And I think it would be very appropriate for us to explore that possibility. And so would a motion need to be made in that regard, or would you all, Mr. City Manager, explore that possibility?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, I think the county is lead on the street renaming process.
Oh, okay.
By agreement with the city.
Okay.
If you would like, I think maybe it could be informative. We'd bring an item back. We'd outline the process, get your, if you want to send your support for such
do a formal
renaming.
Formal recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Would you like to make that motion, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
I would make that as a motion.
Second to the
second
motion? Great. And is there further comment?
Just on point, just
Sure,
a question. Thank you for that motion. And I heard this proposed somewhere a couple months ago, but does the stage at Cascades Park have an official name?
No.
I don't know. I don't believe so. But
Okay. I would be open to exploring the city of Tallahassee naming the stage the Adderley stage. It fits in with the music. It lends itself to that. So not yes, ask the county. I support that as well. But if we wanted to do something as the city, I'd be interested in starting that conversation.
Okay. I'd like to add that to the motion.
Sounds great.
You want to offer it as a friendly amendment?
Yes, I'll offer that.
Yeah.
Great. Any other comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, the other issue, Mr. Chairman, sometime back, Mr. Sutton, our auditor and Inspector General, brought us information, and we had just a very brief discussion about chamber decorum and establishing policies and procedures for chamber decorum. And it really concerned me at our last meeting where we discussed the spot rezoning at the intersection of Miccosukee and Orange Avenue, that an individual, after we took the vote, approached the dais, wagging his finger. Now, that could have been someone with something a lot more dangerous than his finger approaching the dais. And so I think it would be appropriate, and I would make the motion that the city auditor come back to us with policies and procedures for appropriate decorum here in the city chambers.
Excellent.
And I think maybe want to address that.
If you're making a motion, I'll second it
Yes.
before it dies, because I was the other person who got the finger wave.
Sure. There's a motion on the table that has been properly made by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox. Mr. Inspector General, good to see you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing this up, Commissioner Richardson. I would prefer to defer to the city manager. I believe that would be the appropriate place to develop the policy, procedures, protocols for this type of an issue, not the city auditor or inspector general.
Okay, well, I know you had brought it to our attention.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good with
The city manager, you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously, 5-0. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things I wanted to bring up this evening, based on our conversations from last night, or our event last night, just for information, and I'm not going to ask for it to come back, but Mr. City Manager, two things were raised. One was with a conversation with State Attorney Jack Campbell about the use of civil citations for children as opposed to arrests. There were some numbers cited from TPD and I believe the sheriffs as well, and it was said that it would really be TPD and the sheriff that would take the lead on that. So I would just be interested in seeing if we track how many youth are arrested that would be eligible for civil citations and just get some data on that. And that could be in an email. I'm just interested in the number before moving any further on that. And the second thing I just want to get clarity on is we've talked about all the different housing buckets in the past and what we're creating. If we can get a breakdown of what's in the pipeline that's being created, as well as eligible for different income levels. When we look at very low income, how much of what's coming online is that? If we just get a matrix of 1,700 units, this will be affordable for these different brackets, as well as if we have any data of what has come offline in the last year as we redevelop Orange Avenue. What's the net units we're gaining? We have some road projects at Blueprint in the pipeline that may take off things. What we approved earlier today took off, I believe, market rate and maybe added. I don't know if we do any tracking of what our net gain per year is for different income levels. If you have that information, it would be great. If not, I understand we don't track every private development, but that's all my comments tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to address the event that took place last night. I think that
Hold on just a second. That's a tornado warning that just came through? For our area?
Yeah. Tornado warning has been coming.
earlier,
It's been
too.
coming all night, all afternoon. It wasn't an Amber Alert, it was a tornado warning.
Yeah, until 6.
Wow, this is probably
Tornado
the safest room in this building because it doesn't have any windows. So,
Okay.
well, I tell you what, I think we can finish up business probably. Go ahead, Commissioner Williams-Cox, I'm sorry.
Okay, in reference to the event last night, I think that we have an education issue on what we are doing to deal with housing. Even though we've had meetings, we've had joint meetings, we've had a number of things to educate our community, but apparently the process is not widely known. And therefore, we found ourselves in some situations last night that were tough and required to answer yes or no. And those yes or no answers had millions of dollars attached to them. I think that we need to, and I'm asking my colleagues' support, that we provide information to that organization. I don't see Abena in the room, but that we provide.
There she is.
Okay, Abena, that we provide information based on what was asked for last night, that we provide that information to the organization that sponsored that event, so that we can and try to educate and communicate that we're working as hard as we can. I learned today that there are 200 houses in our community for sale, and we got 2,000 realtors trying to sell those 200 houses. That's what I heard today. So it's not like we're not doing anything. And when I tried to share last night what we are doing, it wasn't well received, and there were people there who wanted to hear that. And so we need to share this information, Mr. City Manager, so that our community knows widespread. I don't know if we need to get it to the media. I don't know how people get their information, but we need to make sure they're not opening the utility bill. I'm sorry, they're not opening the utility bill to read that. We've got to find a way to communicate with our residents what we are doing. They're not watching the meetings. I don't know how to do it, but we've got to find that magic communication tool to let folks know what we're doing. We're working as hard as we can to abide by the laws and to make sure that budgets are equitable, and that we're doing a lot of things. And so I think that's what we need to do. So I'll ask my colleagues support in something getting out to that organization as well as our community on what we're doing, how we are addressing housing, low income, workforce, affordable, all of the above, and what we're doing. And I thank you, Abena, for the information that I tried to share last night. I think we need to just put more of it out there, Mr. City Manager. The other thing is that I've been having conversations with City Attorney regarding lobbying. And I've had some citizens say to me that we need to have some safeguard that prevents someone who has been found guilty in a court of law for committing some type of honest service fraud or some other illegal things, to prevent them from being able to come back to the city to lobby the city. Also, the request was to look into what it would take to, not only for the person who's been found guilty, but anyone who participated in this, to also have their lobbying opportunities removed. So, Madam Attorney, I want to ask my colleagues, and I'll make a formal motion, but if you could kind of, share a little bit about what our conversation has been.
Well, as you well know, we have had a couple of citizens, I guess, who've come forward who've asked for similar things. And one of the things that we have done is we've done just a general research of what other jurisdictions are doing in this area. There are constitutional issues that have to be reviewed, and when we have provisions, we have to make sure that we are not breaching people's First Amendment rights or their rights to due process. Generally speaking, under the law, you just can't take something that someone says in one proceeding and move it over to another and say that's what you're going to do something or take some action because of something they said in another proceeding. What we have found is in jurisdictions throughout the United States, there are ordinances where you'll see that if someone has been convicted, this is generally what's there. If someone has been convicted or if they have pled guilty to some crime involving dishonesty, fraud, honest services, you will have a limited period of time that you will prevent them from lobbying the jurisdiction. So that's sort of more of what you see throughout the United States. But in general, just taking someone who gives testimony in a proceeding and taking that and saying, based on that, that person can't lobby, you get into all kind of First Amendment as well as due process issues.
Okay, so with that explanation, we can look at someone who's been convicted of these crimes to look at the possibly either banning them from lobbying or preventing them from lobbying for a period of time.
We
Is that what you're
certainly
saying?
can if it's the will of this commission.
Okay. Well, with that being said, Mr. City Manager and City Attorney, I'd like to make a motion that an agenda item be brought back with the options that we can pursue to make that happen.
Second.
Okay, motion on the table, made by Commissioner Williams-Cox, seconded by Commissioner Matlow. For clarification, it's motion for anyone convicted of honest services and financial crimes and
whatever else you find. I don't want to limit it, because if you've been convicted of murder, we certainly don't want you coming back for that either. But I don't want to spell out some things and leave some things out. So any crime that they've been convicted of that is, where time is being served or some other things have happened.
all right, sounds great. Motion on the table. Any further comment? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 items. Hopefully they won't be too long. One is I sit on the Appalachia Regional Planning Council on behalf of the city, and at our last meeting, we voted as a board to ask our respective bodies to consider writing a letter to the Florida Department of Transportation asking that they request that Florida become a member of the Southern Rail Commission. That's in conversation with some Amtrak and other rail expansions that FDOT is already considering in the Panhandle. Florida has never formally become a member. It is of no cost to the city to become, well, it would not be the city becoming a member. It is our expressing support that Florida become a member. And I believe that Commissioner Dozier is making a similar request at the county for their support. And so I was wondering if I would like to make a motion that we bring an item back, can provide some more background on the Southern Rail Commission, and then we can take action then on if we want to move forward. And by then, we might have more information too about what other counties or cities, members of the ARPC have moved forward.
Motion on the table.
Yeah.
Second.
It had been properly seconded by Commissioner Williams-Cox. Any further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously 5-0.
Thank you. And my second item is about the noise ordinance. It's something that I brought up and that was raised by some of the residents, was just if we could have and I mean, it can be 6 months, it can be sooner, but just not a review of the ordinance, but just an update on our progress. If we feel like it's made a difference, that can be from TPD, whoever really we think is appropriate, just to hear feedback from their perspective on how that's working. So I would make a motion that we bring back a review. I don't know if it's already planned.
6 months, right?
Was it part of the original motion? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I want to make sure. Okay, and then the last thing, Commissioner Matlow actually kind of touched on, I wasn't around when we had this discussion, and based on last night and the county discussion recently, I was wondering what we thought about inviting TPD, the sheriff, the state attorney, to have that discussion with us about the civil citations, the programs, and their thoughts on the county discussion about legalizing marijuana or decriminalizing it. So it's just, what I have in mind is just a discussion similar, an informational item and discussion. No, I'm not asking for any action. I just wanted to hear from them an update and to really get into get more information about the civil citation programs.
Point.
On point.
And I know you said you weren't around when we did this, but when we had the state attorney, the sheriff here in chambers to talk to us about that, when we were talking about 20 grams, ounces, whatever, or less, we had some of that discussion. So are we saying that you're saying we want to revisit that, or what are we saying we want to do? I want to support it, but I just want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of more a generalized discussion about the diversion programs, the civil citations, and I mean, so yeah, it would include that, but not necessarily being the focus. I just want a conversation similar that the county had and responding to what we can do to increase those numbers of civil citations for those who are eligible.
On point, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner, I would recommend that we bring information back in a report, a presentation from TPD in terms of the approach, how it works, how it connects with the process. It's pretty practiced. I think at that point, in fact, some of which Commissioner Matlow asked for earlier, that could be included in that analysis, the interactions, the results, how it works, what happens. We could do that, I think, fairly quickly, and TPD represents, a lot of engagement in our community. If that would suffice, I think that would give you a lot of background in terms of any other follow-up you might like to do.
That's fine with me as a starting point, and I'll see if I feel like I want to make another motion at that point. And that's it for me. Or Commissioner Richardson, yeah.
Just a follow-up to Commissioner Porter's line of questioning. The restorative justice program I know it doesn't take away a conviction, but isn't that something along the same lines as the civil citation?
It is, and Commissioner, forgive me, Cynthia Barber, our Deputy City Manager, could do a better job at it, but that's the approach, obviously. It has everything to do with your record and conviction and hopefully to avoid any kind of stigma that's attached to it. So these are very, very closely aligned. Okay. Yes, sir.
So would you be okay, Commissioner Porter, with that coming back as a part of the information?
Oh, sure.
Because it's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of diversion program we're working on, yeah.
Commissioner Williams-Cox?
Also on point, and from the last meeting, remember that the Tempo is now going to be a part of those diversion programs as well. And I don't know if it has started, but I think that a holistic conversation about where that fits into it as well would be good.
Right, Commissioner Matlow?
Yeah, thank you. Just on point, I agree with Commissioner Richardson. I guess it's everything, right? It's not just the marijuana citations. Right. Yes, I think that's of interest, but it's the other civil citations that can be issued. It's restorative justice. And is there any actions we can take to reduce the amount of children that are being arrested and getting records? That's what I'm interested in exploring. Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else, on a point of personal privilege, I don't know if you all know this, but today is our dear friend Monica Casey's last day covering us with WCTV.
I've already given her my goodbye hug.
And Monica, we just want to let you know that it has been an absolute pleasure to work with you. Your professionalism is second to none. And in this crazy world of fake news sites and everything else, it's always great to know that we've got a trusted leader that we can work with as a community partner. Best of luck in life and where your career takes you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor, one more thing. Today is Mrs. Altamise Barnes' birthday.
How about that?
According to Facebook. Today is her birthday.
Happy birthday. We stand adjourned.